Guys, how's it going? So, yeah, as far as Guns of Glory is concerned, yeah, we got our activation abilities. I ended up getting not one, but three pieces of Genesis gear, which isn't terrible. It's free to play. Um, yeah, the main thing is, like right now they got the Unless Chance coming up, and the Standard and Master, you can always dump heroes coins in. As to whether they're actually worth it, though, right? I think it comes up from time to time. People are kind of wondering. Like you got Dragon Invasion, for example. People went ahead and went through not that long ago. Um, there's a bunch of different events going on, to be honest. I mean, the Berserk Behemoth is not a big deal, but like, I don't know. Like, let me see. I can show you. Like, right now they've got Unexplored Depths going on. Lost Treasure, where you can basically, if you top up even like $1, you can get Kingdom Glory boosts. Which, for context, in the world of gear, I'm pretty sure the Kingdom Glory set's like the top set, and it's only giving you like 20,000 or so percent, right? But in order to even acquire, you need Moonshade gear. The only way you get Moonshade gear is from King's gear. The only way you get King's gear is you get it from Genesis gear. So, I mean, it kind of gives you an idea of what the progression is as far as like actually going about upgrading these battle sets. But I mean, in essence, that's really kind of how it works. Now, given that you know that now in advance, I mean, of course, you can always saving like work on your gemstones, for example. You can always go down here and go to the craft steps and go ahead and upgrade your what you can as far as infantry and so on type gear. It just really depends on what you have available. But like here, for example, I can go ahead and give a shot at that. I ended up getting green, and there we go. So there's some progress. But I mean, the point is that like a lot of this stuff on the surface of it, you can spend your heart's content in Guns of Glory as far as like upgrades and stuff goes. Um, Honestly, where I've found like at least some benefit was like in the fact that by having like so for example in the hot events tab they've got snowy shindig and limited time boost research you can do just to kind of rack up. Cupid's mojo was kind of a big thing for at least around Valentine's, so a lot of people picked these up and kind of ranked their way through and got rewards what they could. Treasure in the Mist looks kind of interesting though, because basically you just go around hunting monsters. I mean, half the battle is you got to be able to rally them, and as you might imagine, I'm almost never able to because I'm always getting zeroed. There's also another thing that's really common in this is like you if you don't spend, you tend to find yourself on the back burner in a way. Like you're not gonna find yourself not getting attacked in this game. I mean, there are some things you can do to kind of eliminate like some of the loss. Like you can pop a peace shield for like 24 hours, for example. But even that's kind of limited in scope of what you can do. And a lot of the people that were attacking me weren't like even really that good in the game anyway. Like I would imagine that the average player playing this game probably spends between $20 to $25, like every week at least, just to maintain their account, to stay away from players that will more than likely ruin their accounts and make them kind of regret playing the game, right? But I mean, even on that note, it's like I don't know. There's still a lot to do in the game, even though like of course, if you want to spend, like I said, it's there's always an option to. I feel like if a person does do that in this game, you kind of have to prioritize getting both the gear upgraded, but I also feel like a large chunk of that is also going to be in like glory. It's going to be bits and pieces over in the Hall of War for like certain upgrades. I mean, the research aspect of it's, kind of like the initial doorway to getting you into that, right? But you don't really spend most of your time doing it. It's kind of interesting because in a way you can almost kind of see what looked like a traditional upgrade system that eventually just kind of divvied up to the tens of thousands. Like, the battle reports in this game are always kind of comical. So, like, for example, I can just look at this report and I'm like, ah, yes, 2 liters, no pets, airship 4 and 5. Okay, serious injury, lost 73k, kills 73k, X amount lost, and so on and so on. And then I can go to benefit details and I can actually see that this guy had not what, like 5 or 6,000, he had 20 or 30,000. You know, it's like it's not even uncommon against the heavy beta ones, or even somebody that's mildly spent in the game to have these kind of stats, though. I mean, yeah, a lot of people at a glance would look at that and goes, "Oh yeah, he spent a lot of money." No, it's really relatively inexpensive. Like, that is kind of what I found to be kind of de-jerking is even though the stats are kind of blown out of proportion, they're not really, how do you say, they're not too crazy. Now, like if you do a visualized gameplay, it is kind of cool though, and like this game, you can actually kind of see the visualization of what is actually occurring. That is to say that, compared to like Word Out Survival and other games like Lords Mobile and so on, they don't actually have that battle review, which I feel like in a way is actually kind of more advantageous. It's just surprising to me how like you don't see it in every game, but at least here you can actually see what's going on. So maybe it'll be a thing down the road in that game. I don't know, but even then, I don't know. In the past week, I've really kind of gotten a feel for like the different types of players that are out there. Well, there's obviously a lot of casual players, right? But even here, like that's 25, 30k, pretty easy. Very rarely do I run into somebody that doesn't have stats similar to that. Now, you might be wondering, like, what does their gear look like, or what's their stats, and all that jazz. I mean, in a way, you really don't have. I don't know. You can like go to the battle review. I can kind of show you what it looks like in this. And again, in almost every case, it's like I can put a bunch of tribute. Then I put 9% of my losses is really just in part because I'm not a heavy player by any means, but like even the concept of the game isn't really terribly complicated. It's just like you can kind of see how like the abilities play out, and well, at least in this instance, like this is where I actually had a stack of troops, and so therefore I actually kind of had a fighting chance. And it's not ideal by any means, but it's still better than nothing, and that's I think kind of what at least in the case of Guns of Glory, I think that's kind of the experience that a lot of people will often get from it. Is you'll look at your reports and often you'll go, ah, yes, I got beat up by this player for having spent X, Y, and Z, right? But not much different than a lot of other pay-to-win games that are out there. It's just this game artistically is kind of different from a lot of the ones that I've encountered. And the part because of the portraits and the gear pieces being as random as they are, but even like just all the different little things that you can do that, even though, sure, I get, like, attacked and soloed out all the time, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, because there's so much PvE content that you can do that doesn't really rely on troops. Now, obviously, you can expand on that, right? That is to say that, not having troops is a good thing, right? I mean, obviously, if you did have troops, you're always going to find yourself getting better loot. But, I mean, even then, it's like, I don't know. I really don't struggle that badly as much as I would think. It's like, it's one of those things where I'm able to gather, I'm able to re-heal the troops that I have. I mean, I'm able to progress. And that's, I kind of think, is kind of the main point to these type of games. Is they don't want to make it so punishing that you're not able to continue playing that main loop. But that said, it's like, after everything's all said and done, I would say about the only thing really that it's probably been a main focus for a lot of people right now is you can actually get a pet right now, which is kind of cool. And then of course you've got the end. Now of course there's like a different royal expedition that goes on every day, so you can always do different ones. Like in this one, I don't know if I can really go any farther. I don't think so, but we'll try. Oh, yeah. We can go a little bit further, it looks like. And it's just little things. like that. You can progress. You can always do the rapid challenge, which is kind of nice. So you just kind of clear through it. And a lot of that, I think, it's probably because I didn't have the gear that I had before. So a lot of this is really based in gear. It's not so much the craziness of it all, which is kind of nice. And so we should be able to grab at least a good chunk of the loot here, and that's always a nice thing. And again, if you're wanting to save some money playing the game, you can always use the promo code I've got down below in the description with Aptoid. I've got a video on it if you want to look into it. But I mean, again, it's just kind of one of those things that if that interests you, then you'll have that option. But more or less, I think my overall experience with the game has been pretty positive. It's just like anything, you can kind of tell. I mean, this is really universal across most pay-to-win games. It's just like how much of a difference it makes between the spender and the non-spender. It's just what do you get out of the game as a non-spender that you wouldn't normally get as somebody else. Like even here, I can kind of look at it at a glance, and I can tell that to have even remotely close to these stats, I'm gonna have a lot of time spent trying to get and acquire the necessary materials to even make it possible. But again, it's nice to know that the feature's there. And I feel like in a lot of ways, that even the simple progression of just like doing farms and stuff like that, it's really not that bad. I just wish I could have gotten a chance at and this is really, I think, kind of something I nitpick, but it's like the mine in particular, I don't feel like I really understand. Like every time I go in the mines, I can tell that there are other players in here, but you can almost never knock them out. There's like always some billion plus might player that owns these mines. So it's really catered to the free, not even the free to play there. You're not going to get anywhere near those mines. Those are just kind of a look and don't tell type of component to the game, and at the same token, right? I mean, for example, you can see my wall defenses and disrepair, so I can sit here and try to heal it, but there's almost no point because of how frequently I get attacked. It's just not even worth trying to pursue. But I don't know. I mean, overall, I'm still in Val. A lot of the members in Val are doing really relatively well. I mean, compared to me anyway. Like where I'm 265 mil, and I thought I was big. It doesn't take long for the might in this game to just get astronomically larger over time. Like in the span of a week, I watched literally people that were 20 mil buff into almost a billion. It's so easy to see. So you can kind of look around and see just how well and how often. But I mean, it kind of gives you an idea. It's not uncommon to be 500 or 600 mil. The people in Guns of Glory that are actually crazy are the people that are several billion in size. Those are the crazy ones. The ones that everybody goes, oh my lord. If you go to the leaderboard, I mean the easiest way to pick them out too is just go to solo pair. Here's 2.7 bill. Any of these guys are the guys that are really kind of going out and abound. They're way leagues above everybody. I mean, if you start looking at solar power across the entire world, the top player is 157 billion. So I mean, it kind of gives you an idea of just what the top echelon players look like in Guns of Glory. But again, for those of you that have never really played a game like this and don't know enough about it, I will say that the game does have strategy components to it that are in some ways more developed than a lot of the other games that I've seen. I mean, like I said, that battle review tab is something that is actually unique to this game. I've actually encountered that very rarely in these type of games. And it's something that you don't really appreciate until you see it, and then you go, oh, so that's why that skill activated and did this much damage and did this much vice versa. It's such a simple thing to ask, and yet it's not even a given in some games. You just don't see it. No, don't get me wrong, that one's funny. Cujo. Some people in their names, and that's the other thing. I find humor in the, just the random player base that you'll run into. There's a lot of, Polish, Russian, and, I've run into a lot of that. A lot of Polish, French, Russian, players, and it may just be the game. I'm not really sure, but there's not a ton of English speaking players that I've run. I mean, I have run into them, but they're just not as common. I mean, you'll find it. You'll find them. Don't get me wrong. They're not. It's not like they're not out there, as you can tell. But there are a lot of Turkish players too, which is another thing. I don't know why that is, but it's like it's not. It's neither here nor there. It's just kind of one of those things where you'll encounter it, and it's kind of cool in its own right. But anyway, I mean that's what Guns of Glory's been like for me the last couple of days. I mean, if anything, I'm spending most of my time trying to progress and such. But again, if you have any suggestions for me on like maybe what I could do better, I don't know. I mean, I for one, I'm still struggling myself personally. It's just kind of a struggle in general, just to get anywhere in the game because of just how much monetization is kind of forced down upon you in it. And it feels that way because it's just like you look around and it's like, okay, so obviously the player that has spent money is going to be way ahead in leagues and every way, but there's also a lot of events that I feel like in a way you can take advantage of, and then you can get just as good, if not as better, than a lot of the player base that are at higher levels than you anyway. It's just part of the problem half the time is resources and collection of those, and the standard, problem that every one of these games have, which is time, which of course, naturally you don't have a whole lot of, and there's just really not a whole lot you can do about it beyond a certain point. But anyway, that's kind of been my thoughts on the game for the last couple of weeks, and I just thought I'd kind of go ahead and discuss it a little bit with you and all. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video, but thanks for dropping by.